Late at night, I stepped into the elevator, tie loosened, fingers still aching from a 14-hour shift. That's when Mr. Halbier, the elderly man from 5C, blocked the doors with his cane. His hands trembled. His voice did too. "Don't go home," he whispered. "Call the police." Immediately. I blinked. Thought maybe he was confused. He'd been slipping lately. But then he grabbed my wrist, hard. "She's not alone," he said. "And it's not a burglary. My name is Grant Everett and I've always believed in logic. Evidence. Things that make sense." But that night, nothing made sense. Not the fear in his eyes, not the chill crawling up my spine as I backed out of the elevator and took the stairs instead. When I reached my door, everything looked normal. Lights on. A familiar shadow moving through the living room. But Mr. Halbier's words echoed in my ears. I crouched, looked through the keyhole. And that's when my knees gave out. She was there, my wife, in our home in one of my shirts, laughing like a teenager. Across from her, shirtless, sipping wine from our wedding crystal, was my younger brother. He reached for her waist. She didn't flinch. I collapsed against the wall. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The world went silent, except for her voice on the other side of the door. She said, "He's always so predictable. He'll never suspect." But I had seen enough. And in that moment, sitting on the floor outside my own home, I decided they were both wrong. I stayed on the floor for another 30 seconds. Not because I was frozen, because I was calculating. Their voices carried through the door like nothing had changed. Joking. Clinking glasses. The soundtrack to Betrayal. I stood up slowly. My hands were steady now. I didn't barge in. I didn't knock. I turned around and walked away. Hi again, Grant Everett. And no, I'm not the man who screams in hallways or punches walls. I'm the man who listens, who files things away, who waits. I drove 3 blocks, parked under a dead street lamp, and called a name I hadn't said in years. Marcus Langley, former private investigator. Ex-cop. Now runs a quiet consulting firm for men like me, men who don't want drama, just proof. I didn't give him details. Just the address, the names, and one sentence. They think they're smart. I want everything. He replied, "You'll have it in 72 hours. I went home late, after 2 a.m. The apartment was quiet, lights off. My wife was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I got in beside her without a word. Her breathing stayed even. Practiced. She never asked where I'd been. Because she thought I hadn't seen. But the next morning, she kissed me like nothing had happened. She packed lunch like always. Said, "You worked too hard, baby." I smiled. "You're right." Because from that moment on, I stopped working for us and started working for me. And in 2 days, she and my brother would walk into something they'd never prepared for. Because betrayal doesn't end when you get caught. It ends when the one you betrayed stops playing by your rules. Marcus delivered early. A USB drive. No fanfare. Just slid across the table at a diner we used to meet at back when we were both different men. Camera footage, phone logs, GPS pings. Your brother's been using your gym fob. Your wife's been meeting him at that co-op market you introduced her to. He paused. "There's more. You sure you want it?" I didn't hesitate. "Give me everything." Hi again, Grant Everett. The man who always thought betrayal was loud. Dramatic. But it's not. It's quiet. Domestic. It makes breakfast, kisses you goodbye, and texts someone else while you're sitting in traffic. That night I watched every clip. Him in my hoodie. Her in the passenger seat of my car when I was supposedly working late. Them, checking into a boutique hotel on the same weekend she claimed she was helping her sister move. But the worst part? They looked happy. Not guilty. Not afraid. Just free. It wasn't an affair. It was a relationship, one that existed parallel to mine. One that had outgrown the shadows and started building roots. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I called my attorney. We updated the will. Revised the insurance. Drafted property separation clauses, pre-divorce. She didn't even notice the notary arriving later that week. She just signed the refinance forms I told her were urgent. But what she signed was a silent surrender. And in 2 days I'd take her and my brother to dinner, one last time. Because they still believed I was in the dark. But I wasn't. I was just getting started. Friday night, I booked a table for 4 at a rooftop restaurant downtown. Same place we celebrated my brother's graduation. Same view. Same wine. I told her it was for old time's sake. She smiled like she'd won. Told me she'd see if my brother was free. He was. Of course he was. They walked in together, she wore red. He wore the same smug confidence he used to get away with everything since we were kids. I stood when they arrived. Hugged them both. She said, "This feels nice, doesn't it?" I nodded. Then lifted my glass and said, "To the truth, and the things we don't say. I again, Grant Everett. Former husband. Former brother. Still very good at keeping my voice even when my blood turns to ice." They ate. Laughed. Pretended. And then I slid 2 envelopes across the table. She hesitated. "You didn't?" Tore his open first. Inside. A printed copy of the private investigator's report. Photos. Logs. Dates. All of it. His face drained so fast I thought he might throw up. She opened hers next. Hers wasn't the report. It was a waiver, pre-signed, notarized, and legally binding. Giving up all rights to our condo, our joint savings, and the retirement accounts. Her signature was already there. She blinked. "What is this?" I said nothing. Just tapped the date she signed. 3 days ago. She looked at me like I'd stabbed her. My brother whispered, "You set us up." "No," I said calmly. "You played yourselves. I just recorded it." Then I stood. And walked away. They never saw the 4th chair. The one I reserved, for the reporter from the local paper. She'd been listening the whole time. The reporter's name was Elise. I didn't bribe her, threaten anyone, or promise a scandal. All I said was, "You'll want to hear how trust dies between 2 brothers. And how a wife signed herself out of a marriage without reading the fine print." She sat 2 tables away. Recorded everything with permission. What? Because my brother's company prided itself on family values. A small tech firm, newly partnered with a veterans nonprofit. They just featured him in a campaign about loyalty and brotherhood. Bad timing. I again, Grant Everett. I used to think exposure was petty. That keeping things quiet was the dignified path. But dignity without consequence is just silence with a tie on. When Elise emailed me the final transcript, I sent it only one place, to my brother's head of PR. No captions. No threats. Just the raw, unedited story. It didn't take long. Within 48 hours, his face was pulled from the homepage. His inbox? Leaked. His partnerships? Paused pending internal review. Meanwhile, she moved out. Quietly. No goodbye. Just a forwarded mail slip and a half-hearted email. "I wish things were different." I didn't reply. Instead, I went back to the rooftop restaurant. Same table. Alone this time. The waitress, same one from that night, handed me the bill for the dinner they never paid for. I tipped her double and left one note on the receipt. I always pay my debts. Eventually, so do they. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about finally owning the silence that used to be weaponized against me. And tomorrow? I'd walk into a courtroom with all the paperwork done, all the assets cleanly separated, and one final surprise they still didn't see coming. Court wasn't dramatic. That's the part no one tells you. No yelling. No slamming fists. Just paperwork, signatures, and eyes that avoid yours like the truth is too heavy to look at. She sat 2 seats away, makeup thinner, voice lower. No lawyer beside her. She couldn't afford one anymore. My brother didn't come. His name wasn't on anything official. But his fingerprints were all over the life she lost. I again, Grant Everett. A man who once believed that if you gave people the benefit of the doubt, they'd give you honesty in return. Now, I deal in contracts, not assumptions. The judge reviewed the documents. Everything airtight. Thanks to Rachel, my attorney, and that one signature my wife never thought twice about. The judge asked her, "Do you understand what you're agreeing to?" She hesitated. Glanced at me. I didn't blink. She said, "Yes." And just like that, the home, the savings, the stocks, they were mine again. Not out of spite. Out of consequence. Outside the courtroom, she followed me to the parking lot. "I don't understand," she said. "You never raised your voice. You never fought back. You just let me hang myself." I finally looked at her, really looked. "I didn't let you. You did that all by yourself." She stepped closer. "Was any of it ever real to you?" I shook my head slowly. "It was. Until I saw what you look like when you think I'm not watching." She cried. But I didn't. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. She turned to leave. And that's when she saw him, standing across the lot, waiting by a cheap rental car, wearing sunglasses and shame. My brother. He wasn't there for her. He was there because I had subpoenaed him, for the next phase. He didn't expect the subpoena. Thought he was done. Thought walking away quietly meant walking away clean. But the financial trail said otherwise. See, my wife may have signed away her rights, but my brother? He had knowingly received marital funds. Gifts, hotel stays, even an unauthorized loan from our shared line of credit. That made him liable. I watched from across the parking lot as he read the legal notice, the color draining from his face, the sunglasses suddenly useless. I, Grant Everett. The man they thought would never fight back. The one they thought would collapse in heartbreak and disappear. But heartbreak is not weakness. It's ignition. I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. My lawyer had already filed the claim: financial misconduct, civil liability, and intent to defraud. It wasn't criminal, yet. But it would be on record. His partnerships had already buckled from the PR fallout. This was the nail. He called me that night. First time in months. Grant, please. Don't do this. We're family. I didn't shout. I said, so was I when you kissed my wife in my kitchen. Silence. He whispered, you don't need to destroy me. And I replied, I'm not. I'm just documenting what you did, for everyone else you'll try to fool next. Then I hung up. That night I sat alone in the condo. Quiet. Still. No plans. No schemes. Just space. I didn't need revenge. I needed to breathe in a life without lies. But the next morning, I woke up to an email from a name I hadn't seen in over a decade. My brother's ex-fiancée. Subject line, I saw the article. You're not the only one. I met her at a small coffee shop outside the city. She looked older, sure. But her eyes? Still sharp. Still steady. My name's Tessa, she said. We were engaged once years ago. He left in the middle of planning our wedding. She pulled out a slim folder. I didn't come empty-handed. Inside emails, texts, screenshots, bank statements. The same pattern. The same manipulation. The same fake apologies. And tucked between it all, a single notarized letter. A personal loan agreement. Dated 8 years ago. Unpaid. He used me, she said. Then ghosted me. I was too ashamed to go public. Until I saw your name in that article. I, Grant Everett. Not a hero. Not a victim. Just a man who finally stopped making excuses for people who never earned my protection. We talked for an hour. Then I connected her with my attorney. And with her evidence, we filed a joint civil case. Not for revenge, not for drama, but for pattern recognition. Because men like my brother don't stop until the world stops handing them silence. The story broke 2 weeks later. 2 victims. 2 timelines. 1 man. His career didn't just end, it collapsed under the weight of his own history. As for her, my wife, she disappeared from the city. Last I heard, she was working in a different state under her maiden name. I never responded to her last message. It just said, I miss who we were. I almost replied. But instead, I walked to the window, poured a drink, and sat in the home I now fully owned, rebuilt, repainted, mine. Because peace isn't found in destruction. It's found when you finally stop giving pieces of yourself to people who break them. I didn't destroy my brother. I just refused to protect his lies anymore.